Hello Infiniteers! Today I'm going to start showing you how to build my WALL-E toy box. If you want to be able to play this for yourself, this is the only way you can do that. It is not currently available for toy box sharing on PC or PS4, PS5 because I cannot share my toy box file from my Wii U. But if someone wants to build this and make their save file available, they're welcome to do so, as long as they credit me for the original toy box design. Okay, before we get into the build, I want to let you know that I have listed the power discs and the play sets that you will need on my blog. I'll put a link to that in the video description. If you don't have those power discs or play sets, I will try to share alternatives for you along the way, but you really need to have those things if you want your build to look like mine. So let's begin by setting the sky, and for that I am going to place the By and Large Atmosphere power disc on my base, and that gives us the world of WALL-E sky. And if you don't have that disc, then you can use the toy dispenser here to get the sky. And if you don't know how to use the toy dispenser, then watch my Toy Box Tutorials episode 111, where I covered the toy dispenser in detail. Once it gives you the WALL-E sky, then delete the toy dispenser and save your toy box before you go any further, so that you don't lose the sky. And of course, as I mentioned in that tutorial, you might have to play with the toy dispenser for a while before it will give you that sky. Okay, now that we have the sky, we can figure out the orientation for this build. In the movie, there are two main areas where WALL-E lives: the sprawling city and a large, barren, open area. WALL-E's home sits right on the edge of those two areas, near the end of a collapsed overpass. If you look one direction, you see the city. And if you look the other direction, like when you see WALL-E chasing after the laser dot, you see that there's a large, barren area in that direction. Now looking toward the city, you can see that there's a road that runs underneath the overpass, and beyond that road are the city buildings. So in my toy box, I wanted these same two areas, and this is what governed the layout for my toy box. So as we begin our build, I want to place the terrain that serves as the foundation for my city, and I want to place the main road that runs around the toy box and makes up the racetrack. And this will serve as the framework for our toy box, and this is my goal for today's video. And looking at the Sky Dome, we have kind of a barren area in that direction, and much of the city is in that direction. So when the player enters the toy box, I want them facing the city. So I'm going to turn my starting pad that direction, okay? And so the city part of the toy box we're going to build over this way, and the large barren area we're going to build over in that direction. And so that's the orientation for the toy box and how we're going to divide up the areas and where everything goes. All right, let me come out of the editor here. And before I place my terrain, I want to put down my WALL-E's Collection Terrain Customization Power Discs. And I'll go ahead and switch the entire theme. That gives us the terrain theme that we need. If you don't have this disc, you can use a desert terrain for now. When we finish the build in a few episodes, and you've placed all of the terrain, plant clusters, and roads, then you can put down another toy dispenser and try to get a capsule with the WALL-E terrain. But wait and do that when we're done with the build. And if you want to know why, again, watch Toy Box Tutorials episode 111. All right, so back into the editor. And let's set the terrain theme formally to be WALL-E's Collection. I set that to be my theme. So every terrain block I put down now will use that theme. And this is the only terrain theme we're using for the entire toy box. Okay. And we're going to start by placing down another piece of terrain here on the end of this, looking, of course, in that direction. And looks like the orientation of the terrain, the pattern on the terrain, matches the one we started with. If it's not, then rotate it so that it is. Alright, so we're going to put that down, and I'm going to put down 3 of these total. Or 3 of these, so we have 4 now in that direction. Okay? And then going toward the city, we're going to put down another 4. And then another 4. And then we're going to grab this long, tiny terrain block. And because I'm going to be using the racetrack for the overpass and the off-ramp, we kind of need to leave a gap in the terrain for that. So we're going to put a row of these down along the edge of this. And one of these along the edge of that. And again, that's because the racetrack pieces are 4 blocks wide. This little piece is 3 blocks wide. We need 1 more. And just because I want all of the terrain to kind of line up on the ends, we need to run this all the way down through the middle of the terrain. I think you'll see next time when we build the overpass a little bit better why I'm doing what I'm doing here. Okay, then we're going to grab this piece of terrain one more time and come over here to the end of that, and we're going to drop down 2 more and then fill that area in. So we got a large rectangular area. That, believe it or not, is the area for the city. That has nothing to do with the large open area. That's just the city. This is going to be a massive toy box, okay? Let's go to the next size smaller here, and we'll go over to the end. Bring this out to the edge and drop it down 1 nudge. This is going to be now for the large open area there. And we're going to run a total of 4 of these till we get to this point. And then once again, we'll put in our little gap here. I was going to say something about the large open area, and I forgot what I was going to say. Alright, and then we're going to run these all the way down to the end. Okay, so there's the start of the barren area. Okay. Now coming over here to this end, it looked like from the movie that the area kind of slopes down, and so I want to get one of these sloping pieces, and the one we're going to use is this one. We're going to put this right here on the end, and now leave a gap. This is where the off-ramp from the overpass is going to go, so it's going to actually sit up, going up this direction, and this is why we have this, to leave this gap here. And because we have that gap, we would have this gap running down the middle of this thing, okay? Which is why I put those blocks in there. If we just ran these all the way over, then things wouldn't line up over on that end. You know, if we left these out and just slid this over to the left, then you're going to have a bit of a gap there on the end of that. And I just kind of want the world to look symmetrical and not have a lot of gaps. A lot of things not lining up. This way, at least, it's not so bad. And I'm going to leave this empty and not put one there. And you're going to see why in just a moment. All right, so we'll come back over here. Now let's pick this piece up, put it down, grab the next size larger. This is going to sit out here just like that, okay? And we're going to run these down. And now you can see I'm putting it underneath that thing. I'm not going to run this stuff out here to the end of this. I could, but see, in the city, we're going to be putting buildings and roads and stuff on top of this. So these little pieces of terrain are not going to be very noticeable. But there's nothing out this direction, and you're going to see all of those terrain seams, and it looks kind of ugly. So what I ended up doing was I ended up taking these out down here and just running the large piece all the way over instead of putting it out here and putting all those little pieces in the gap. But because I did that, now this doesn't come all the way out to the end of that. All right, let's put one more row of these in. And again, I could have done that and had the edges line up nice and smooth down there, like they do here. But then you'd have those ugly terrain seams right down the middle of this empty area with nothing to hide them. And I just thought it didn't look so bad. But you're not going to be spending a lot of time down in this huge area or on that corner of the toy box. So that's not too noticeable on the edge there. All right, so that is all of the foundation for the terrain. Okay, this is again going to be a massive toy box. And this is actually scaled down quite a bit, because if I built the movie to scale, to the size and scale that you see in the movie, this would actually probably be about 6 to 10 times larger than it is. And we just don't have the memory for that. So I had to be selective when I was building this and try to condense things down as much as possible. And that was a challenge. So this is the condensed version, believe it or not. All right, so we're going to grab the wide terrain ramp. And what I want to do here is we're going to come over from these little blocks in here. We're going to come down to the end of this and put this ramp in here. This is just going to make it easy if the player has a vehicle that gets down in there. It's going to make it easy to get out. We'll place a few of these along here. And this one's going to sit about right there. I may end up moving that one slightly. All right, so that is all, most of the terrain for the toy box, with the exception of the mountains or skyscrapers of trash and the overpass, which we're going to build next time. All right, now let's build the road that runs around the city portion of the toy box. We're going to start on this corner. So let's go up to the racetrack pieces. And we need the wide pieces. Most of what we're going to use are the wide pieces. And I want to grab the wide track turn. Okay. This is going to sit right down on that piece of terrain, and you'll notice it covers the entire terrain. That entire piece of terrain. And for the theme on this, if you look at the WALL-E theme and apply that, that looks nothing like a road. And I don't really see any practical use for that terrain, that road theme. So I don't like that. If you try to use one of the other road themes, like the Cars theme, or Toy Box Roads, these road themes look much too clean. Okay, when you look in the movie, they're covered in dirt. You can barely even see the concrete because there's so much dust and dirt and garbage. So I don't think we want to use that. And if you use the X Games theme, which is the dirt theme, that's going to be too dark. And so the theme that I chose to use for my roads is actually the Boonta Eve track. I will set that to be my theme. This looks very similar to what you see in the movie. It's about the same color. The road kind of looks cracked. I know it's supposed to look like a hard, cracked desert, packed down terrain, but it serves pretty well, I think, as the texture for the roads in WALL-E. It matches it pretty well, I think. And so we're going to go ahead and use that for our road theme. It just looks like a very old road that's broken apart. It's just dusty and dirty. And I like that. All right, so let's go counterclockwise around the toy box, I guess. So we're going to go back over to the small pieces. We're going to grab this racetrack split piece. And this is the part that's going to run underneath the pendulums. So I wanted this to be a little bit narrow. And we're going to grab this long racetrack piece here, followed by that, followed by the wide turn, but the shorter version. So that piece. Okay. And then a long wide track. And then we're going to split. To make this track kind of interesting, I thought it would be good to do a split here and just kind of weave in and out of the pyramids, the skyscrapers, and the mountains of trash, and then have it crisscross a couple of times. And I thought that would be kind of interesting. All right, so we're going to put down some of these. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them total. And do the same thing over here. Okay. And then we'll put another split piece. Like that. Followed by another split piece, and this is where you have to make a very tight turn, or you just cross over the road to the other side. And I thought that made things kind of interesting. So you're kind of weaving between the skyscrapers and the trash, which is kind of cool. All right, and then we have our wide split, followed by a section of wide track, and then a turn. For the turn, we'll use the short track turn. Okay, and then on this end, get back to the straight pieces. We're going to put down 3 of them. We're going to start with a wide piece, followed by 2 long wides, and then another turn. And if we did this right, this should go right up to the edge of the drop there, and it does. So that's good. All right, so then we're going to put in a wide section. And how about that? I dropped that ramp right where I needed to, because I wanted this edge to line up with that seam. That worked out pretty good. Yeah, don't have to move that ramp. All right, and then we're going to put down some of these long, wide ones, and we're going to put down 1, 2, 3, 4. Which gets us to here. And then a short section. And this little bitty guy. And then the starting line. If you wanted to, I suppose you could have the track go that direction and spin this around, run the race that way. But I kind of like it going this direction. We'll start by going under Wally's overpass. All right, and then 3 of these should put us right up to where we started, and it does. So there we go. So that's our track around the city and our large open area over here. And I'm not running any track down in the city itself between buildings and things because racetrack takes up a lot of memory. And we don't really need to do that because this looks dirty enough. And by the time we put some decorations in there, like a few street lights here and there or whatever, it's going to look like dirty streets. And you need to be able to distinguish anyway where the player is supposed to race. So we don't want to run racetrack all over the place, using up memory to build streets when we don't really need to. And by the way, if we come over here, our freeway overpass, if you want to know how this looks, you drop a block here, a basic block, and then go back up to the racetrack pieces and grab the steep flat track. That sits in there like that, and you have 3 of these going up to the overpass. So now you can kind of see why we needed this gap in here and why we kind of had to put all of these in there. But this is going to be, again, covered up by the overpass. This part's covered up by road on this end and that end. There's going to be buildings in here. It's just going to be not very visible. But that's where the freeway overpass goes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I think this is a good stopping point for today. It's going to take a little while to build the freeway overpass, so I'm going to save that for next time. And we'll build the overpass where Wally's home sits, and we'll build his home too. And I'm going to show you how I built it, and I'll also show you an alternative if you don't have the piece that I used from the Marvel Battlegrounds playset. But until then, I want to thank you for watching. Before you go, hit the like button and leave a comment to let me know what you think of the design of my toy box so far. And if you like my Disney Infinity toy boxes, but you have not yet subscribed to my channel, just click my photo in the lower right corner of this video. That's all for me today. Take care.